It's your favorite manifesting cousin, Neira, and welcome to the Manifest with Me podcast, where we will be discussing mindset, manifestation, and money, with a little ratchet behavior mixed in from time to time. If you haven't already, please make sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Neira_X. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, Neira the G.O.A.T, and visit my website, NeiraTheGoat.com. The Manifest with Me, where thoughts become things digital course has officially launched. If you're interested in learning how to manifest more, shift your paradigms, and overcome any limiting beliefs, this is the perfect course for you. Check out my website, NeiraTheGoat.com, to learn more about it. I'm so happy and grateful that you've taken a moment to listen to this podcast, and I hope you find this week's episode super helpful and insightful. Make sure to leave me a 5-star review and comment on this episode, and shout me out on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. So what's up, guys? I'm so happy to be back with another episode of the Manifest with Me podcast. This is episode 7, and I just want to give myself a pat on the back for being hella dedicated, hella committed to pumping these out every week. Lord knows there's always something that is trying to deter me from my what's the word I'm looking for? That's trying to deter me from my consistency. But I am so committed to this podcast, and I thank everybody for listening. Shout out to my cousin Jasmine, who left me a comment, my aunt who left me a comment, and anyone else that has given me a rating on the podcast, whatever platform you've been listening on. Make sure to rate the podcast. Make sure to leave comments. Make sure to share with your friends, because it is through those actions that the podcast has the ability to get out to more and more people. All right, so let's get into this week's episode. I want to talk about how Source is our GPS. So technically, GPS stands for Global Positioning System. But if we want to take that over into the spiritual world, I would say it stands for God's positioning system. And I had this little epiphany over the weekend. If you follow me on social media, you know, I took the kids and a couple of my friends, and we went over to Toccoa Falls, Georgia, to visit this beautiful waterfall. And as I was driving there, it's about 2 hours away from Atlanta. So as I was driving, you know, I haven't even been living in Georgia for a year yet. And I still have to use my GPS to get just about everywhere. I'm getting a little bit more familiar, like getting on the interstate and stuff like that. But for the most part, I still have to use my GPS to go wherever I need to go. And I grew up I was born in 89. So I know a lot of the people who are listening to this can remember when MapQuest was a thing, and we would print out our directions from our desktop computers, and we would have like 12 pages of of directions to get us where we needed to go. And now we've completely upgraded to having GPS, Google Maps in our phone, right? And as I was driving, I kind of like had this epiphany about how, you can live anywhere in America and just hop in your car as long as you've got the GPS. And we just get in our car and we trust that the GPS is always going to get us to our destination. We trust that the GPS is always going to get us where we need to go, and more than likely in a timely manner. So, we follow the GPS with full trust. And as I was driving, I was on the phone with my friend, um, Joe, and she and I were kind of discussing it, but the call ended up dropping. And I continued to ponder on that, like in my spirit, how we put so much trust in a GPS that we're going to get to where it is that we need to go. And the level of trust we have in a global positioning system is the same level of trust that we need to have with God's positioning system. And, you can make the comparison or the analogy that if you get in your car and let's say that there's a traffic jam, or there is a speed check because the police are out, or anything like that, those little hiccups, or even if you happen to take a wrong turn, those little hiccups are redirections. They, like, when those things come, a lot of times your GPS offers you a redirection or an alternate route to go. And even when those come up, especially like if we're trying to get to our destination at a particular time or something like that, it could be a little annoying. But even when the redirections happen to come up and they have to occur, we still have trust in the GPS that it knows what it's talking about and it's still going to get us to our destination. And it just made me really think about our relationship with God, our relationship with Source, and how in life, there are a lot of redirections that have to come up. It could look like a financial setback. It could look like a physical illness or something of that nature. It could look like maybe an emotional breakdown or something along the lines of that. And it's so crazy how even when these real life redirections come up, we are ready to throw in the towel. It's like we are so ready to just say, fuck this GPS. This shit don't work. I don't want to trust it. But we have to match the level of trust that we have in the GPS, the global positioning system, in the same way that we have our GPS in God's positioning system. And God's position is going to always get us to our destination. God's position is always going to get us to the absolute best destination in the absolute best way. In our redirections in real life, a lot of the times there's still purpose and meaning in that. And we've got to get to a point where we not only trust the GPS, God's positioning system, but we also are able to trust in the redirection as well. And it's hard because a lot of the times the redirection is uncomfortable, is disappointing, and a lot of the times it looks like heartbreak. It looks like your world crashing down around you. Um, I've been through things this year specifically, but I mean, even over the last few years, I have, lost my grandmother. I'm separated. I've had changes in career. Those things alone, when you have a marriage that you thought was going to be your forever thing and it's no longer that, that is a redirection. It's not it's not a end all be all, but it can feel that way. When you lose someone that you love so much, that's so near and dear to you, that redirection can feel like your world is ending, but it's just a redirection, and you've got to be able to find the meaning and the purpose in those redirections. It is in Romans 8:28 that the Bible reminds us that God works all things out for our good. If we want to bring it back to the analogy of traveling in a car, there's a traffic jam. The traffic jam was caused by an accident. Now, one, you might be a little delayed for you to get to wherever your destination is, but you could have been the car causing the actual traffic jam that was in the accident, but you weren't, right? And from this traffic jam, your GPS is now causing you to redirect you in an alternative way. Now, let's just say we'll just use me as an example. Let's say that I'm the driver of this car. I'm not from Georgia, but in the redirection, I'm learning an alternate route to how to get to my destination, and it could be an even quicker way to get to my destination. The redirection is causing me to learn something new that I'll always be able to carry with me for in the future. So let's say I ever am traveling in the same direction and there's another traffic jam. I now know how to get out of it. I now know how to get around it. So you could be facing in your real life right now a redirection, but you got to take a step back to one, acknowledge the fact that even in the redirection that there is purpose in it and it is going to work out for your good. And sometimes you're being protected from things that you don't even realize that you're being protected from. I remember when I was a little girl, growing up in a old Baptist church, I remember all of the old ladies and the old men in church saying, God, thank you for protecting me from danger seen and unseen. The reality of it is there are things that are happening, good and bad, all around us all the time. And 9 times out of 10, we're being protected and we're not even conscious of the things that we're actually being protected from that are happening all around us. I mean, I live in Georgia. Human trafficking is a thing here. And I don't take it lightly that I'm able to go out to Midtown, to downtown, and I'm able to make it back home safely as a single woman. There are things that are happening around us all the time. So even in the redirection, you could be possibly being protected from a danger that's unseen to you. And then also in the redirection, you are learning something. You're able to, in the redirection, if you're open and willing to learn, there is a lesson that you're going to be able to carry with you for the rest of your life. Hypothetically speaking, if someone passes away, or I'll use the example of whenever my grandmother died. I was super close with my grandmother, and I was on a work trip. Um, I flew back in town on a Thursday night. I got a call as soon as I landed from the airport. Hey, we had to bring your grandmother to the hospital. Okay, cool. Leave the airport, go straight there. It's like 11:30 at night. I go there. I'm talking to her. She's coherent. She knows who she is. She knows where she is. Cool. The following morning, I was like, well, I could just bring my stuff. I could work from the hospital. I'll stop and give me some coffee, and I'll drop the kids off at school, give me some coffee, go straight to the hospital. As I'm in line at Starbucks, I get a call from my mom. She's like, they want all the family to get to the hospital right now. Okay, cool. I'm like 5 minutes from the hospital. I get in there, and they're literally asking us if they want us to put her on do not resuscitate. I'm like, I just talked to her last night. What do you mean? I go in the hospital room and they have all these tubes and everything hooked up to her, and I just can't believe in less than 24 hours, I'm watching my grandmother literally slip away from me right before my eyes. She ended up passing that same night. So literally, she went into the hospital, and literally 24 hours later, she was gone. In that redirection of life, in that moment, I realized how fragile life was. Like, I knew it was fragile, but to have someone unexpectedly die right before you is heartbreaking. But I remembered all of the things that I had done with my grandmother in my 31, I think I was 31 when she passed, 31 years of life. And I knew, and I was at peace that she was able to go and I was able to see her, because I knew that I had done everything as a granddaughter. Like, my grandmother would call me, I would bring her wherever she needs to go. You know, I would talk to her almost every night. That was our thing. And I had no regrets about my grandmother leaving this earth. But it is a lesson that I was able to take from that with the people that you love, that you do, and you make sure that you take up all the space that you need to, because when they go, they go. And you don't want to have any regrets when the people you love leave this earth, you know? So again, even in the redirections, a lot of the times you're able to find a lesson that you'll be able to keep and carry with you forever. And always remember that even though it may be disappointing, even though the redirection could take a long time, because that's the other side of it, right? Sometimes when we are redirected into something else, the concern is, how long is it going to take? And on your spiritual journey, on your journey of manifestation, you know that the hows and the wins are not up to us. The hows and the wins are above our pay grade. The only thing we need to be concerned about is the what we're doing, and the why attached to the what. What and why. How and when is up to God. So if you are being redirected in this season of your life, it's not your concern to worry about how long it's going to take. It's going to take however long it needs to take. But it is through your attitude about the redirection that oftentimes plays a big role in how long something takes. Because what we know from manifestation, what we know from this spiritual journey, the more you cultivate the feelings of frustration, of disappointment, of leaning into the fact that you're very uncomfortable, is the further and further away you put yourself vibrationally from the thing that you actually desire to have. The further away it puts you from vibrationally from the destination that you're trying to reach. So you have to learn in redirection patience. Patience not only for you, but for your situation, for all those people around you and involved during this redirection, and give yourself some grace. If everything was given to us easy, if every time we got in the car and we were able to just get to wherever we need to go, there would be no time for us to really just stop and admire the scenery. While you are practicing your patience, while you're practicing your grace in the redirection, take a moment to notice the scenery. Take a moment to cultivate gratitude right where you are. Because getting yourself in the feeling of gratitude, getting yourself back into the feeling of appreciation, even in the midst of disappointment, even in the midst of heartache, is going to be the thing that's going to jumpstart you and get you right back on track to wherever you need to go. Redirections happen all the time. But again, it goes back to us developing our level of trust with Source, developing our level of trust with God to know that if for whatever reason I'm being redirected from the goal, redirected from whatever my desire is, then there's something that I must learn. You know, it's really funny. I'll give the example of like making more money. A lot of the times you could talk to anybody and they'll be like, all I need is $1 million. $1 million will make me feel so much better. Well, let's just say you're on the road to 1 million, but for whatever reason, you have to be stopped because there's still some things that you haven't mastered on the 100,000 level. You know, maybe it is that you're not budgeting as best as you can. Maybe it is you get money, but you harbor it for yourself and you don't know how to give back to others out of the fear that you may never get this money again. So, a lot of times, too, in the redirection, you've got to ask for wisdom and guidance. Is there something while I'm being redirected? Because sometimes, like I said, there are lessons in redirections, but sometimes the lessons aren't so obvious. And if we're caught up in our feelings about being redirected, then we definitely won't be able to see what the lesson is, especially with our spiritual eye. Because again, this whole journey that we're on is a spiritual journey. We are in this physical body, but we come from an eternal place into this time space reality. So there is a lesson there. And it's not always a lesson that you can easily find with your physical eye. Sometimes the lessons are found through our spiritual eye. So in the redirection, we have to stop and ask, hey, is there something that you need me to see that I'm just not seeing? You know, and the conversation is just as simple as that. Sometimes the redirection happens because it's Source's way of reminding us that we're not in control. This is still Source's show at the end of the day. We're the co-creators of all this shit. But there's one creator. There's one universal source. There's one universal intelligence that's running this whole fucking show, dog. And sometimes the redirection is for you to just stop and acknowledge that. It's not about you. I mean, it's about you, dog. It is. But it's not all about you. And you've got to go back and converse with the source. And the source is going to continue to guide you directly where you need to go. Listen, I love you guys. And I'm so happy that I was given that revelation as I was driving to the most beautiful waterfall I've ever seen in my life. And it was a lesson and a download that was given to me, reminding me literally of like where I'm at in life too right now, but also as an encouragement to you. There's somebody that's listening to this right now that's either been redirected already, currently in the position of being redirected, or maybe this is a prophetic word for you or a premonition to what is to come. The reality is redirections happen all the time. It has no respecter of persons, right? We're all going to endure and experience this at some point in our journey, multiple times in our journey. But it's important, again, to remember to give ourselves some patience. I mean, extend patience to the situation, extend patience to ourselves, extend grace to ourselves into the situation. Understand and trust that God's way, God wants the best for us. And God is going to redirect some things in order for you to always receive what is best for you. There are always lessons in the redirection, so make sure you ask and you're paying attention to what is happening. And also in your gratitude, in the midst of a redirection, you will be able to trust source. That's so good. I love you guys so much. Sending you peace, love, and light always. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any questions or any topics that you'd like me to discuss, please don't hesitate to leave a comment or send me a DM on Instagram. Peace, love, and light to you. Always remember what you are seeking is seeking you too. Happy manifesting.